And Claire Pearsall, as I say, is still joining us in her sparkles. Just want to give you a chance to come back in on that breaking news from last night across a lot of the media today. These dozens of people killed as Pakistan and India have exchanged fire in disputed Kashmir, but Pakistan actually going into Indian territory, not just disputed Indian-controlled Kashmiri territory. Yeah. It's a very complicated story. We've just had, I think, a fantastic explanation from Professor Anthony Gleeson of what is going on here. There's no doubt these two countries, there is no love lost. You've got the territorial disputes. You have got the religious aspect to this. But there is a real concern, not only that this could spill over into a hot war, a real war, indeed a nuclear war, they're both nuclear powers, but also, as he touched on as well, and you and I touched on earlier, the concern that this could become an issue back at home on British streets.
Yeah, and I think that's what's concerning the majority of people now, is what are the implications for the United Kingdom. And this comes with the news recently that a Pakistani national was deported for threatening to blow up Blue Water shopping centre and the Ministry of Sound nightclub in London.
I'm just surprised that anyone has been deported. That just blew my mind. Are you sure that's true?
Last year. I won't give you the dates on that. Last year. So you know that there are pockets over here of people involved in terrorism.
More than pockets. I'm sorry, there's more than pockets.
Yeah, more than pockets. All right, there are a large number of people in this country wanting to do us ill. So I think that there are concerns that this is going to spill out onto the street, and how far that goes and how much it's going to blow up.
My issue, again, we think about the crackdown on Southport rioters and even people just wrote posts and things. I'd love to see what the crackdown again, but I think we're going to have two-tier policing and two-tier justice again. We've got 1.9 million people of Indian heritage in this country, 965,000 people born in India, 3% of the population of this country is Indian, and about a million people in this country from Pakistan as well. There's a lot of people. We've got a lot of people concentrated in particular towns and cities, particular neighbours, again, because people aren't being diverse and integrating. We've got people just living often in quite parallel lives to the established British communities. Anyone who gets involved in this, who is not a born and bred British national, I say bye-bye to. I genuinely, you want to come here and act out an internecine bit of warfare from where you are from? Bye-bye, you are not welcome here. Bye-bye. Literally, bye-bye. We literally take you to the airport as soon as you're convicted. Bye-bye.
And there'll be a lot of people using this as a perfect excuse to stoke up even more trouble in their community.
We've imported way too much of this stuff already, in my view.
And they're going to use it as an excuse to fire it up. So if they're going to be so adamant they want to fight the cause for whichever country they belong to, then they should go back. It's quite as simple as that.
Absolutely.
But returns to both India and Pakistan are very, very difficult because both governments don't wish to take those people back home.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, look, let's talk about the biggest topic of the day until that, obviously, was this big trade deal. I mean, should be hailed as a great, absolutely fantastic achievement after 3 years negotiations started under the Tories. Post-Brexit, by the way, Keir Starmer, I know you don't like it, but the EU doesn't do deals very easily. This is one of the biggest deals India has ever done. To get a trade deal with a country that is the 4th biggest economy in the world, rapidly, because thanks to net zero, going to be overtaking Germany as the 3rd biggest economy in the world. A population of 1.46 billion people. There's a huge market there. Get a very, very protectionist country. Got a lot of tariffs. I said 175% earlier. It was wrong. 150% tariffs on things like whiskey. Scotch Whisky Association say, look, this is a game changer for them. Those tariffs are going to go down to 75%, then down to 40% over a few-year period. That's going to be massive. They say huge extra export possibilities, more jobs here in Britain. We're going to see cutting of tariffs, and we've got much lower tariffs on Indian goods coming over, on manufacturing. That will mean cheaper goods for us, not undercutting our own industries. We can't compete already with China and India and Bangladesh on cheap clothing. That's just not an option with the wages that they pay and the standards of the factories and things. But the big concern that's been raised, and no doubt Kemi Badenoch's going to raise it at PMQs at midday today, as a former business secretary, she said, look, she rejected elements of this deal. The reason why she couldn't get it across the line when she was business secretary is because of this two-tier tax system, whereby an Indian company can take an Indian employee they've already got on the payroll and bring them over to the UK, and for the first 3 years they are here, they would not pay national insurance in this country, they would pay it back in India. Likewise, a British company taking a British worker to India, they would continue for those 3 years to pay national insurance, not tax, but national insurance back here. Seems reasonable. 17 countries we've already got that deal with. Certainly for all countries, anyone coming here as a temporary worker, for the first year, you pay your national insurance equivalent in the country of origin. The difference here is there are so many more Indians than there are Brits, so many more Indians who come to this country. In 2023 alone, 250,000 people migrated from India to the UK, half on study visas, they're allowed to work after us, half on work visas. Will these people coming here be a few hundred high-level, high-skilled workers who've been working at a top Indian company for years? They're coming over on secondment to the London office, and then they're going to go home. They're going to be net contributors, lovely jubbly. Or, as you pointed out earlier, if you look at the list of jobs that people can do to arrive on that system, I'm not sure it's looking good. Tell us the groups of people involved.
Well, I think Henry Hill highlighted one that I hadn't thought of, which were yoga experts.
Yoga instructors, yeah. Big shortage of those, was it? Chefs?
Chefs and musicians. Because the economy is going to fall apart otherwise.
We need chefs, musicians and yoga instructors. I mean, basically, that is the future of our economy. That's
the Islington crowd taking care of, isn't it?
But basically, these are not going to be necessarily highly skilled people. No. And the question is also, how long have they worked for that Indian company? Because you could just hire someone and a week later ship them over, and then they're a cheap worker compared to Brits.
They are. And also, I've been looking into a little bit more of the details surrounding visa conditions, and what I cannot see is whether they are going to be allowed to bring dependents. And this is what
I assume
and you would assume you would, and other countries allow you to do that. So is there going to be a cap on the number of visas? I think that's a big fat no. Is there going to be a cap on the number of dependents coming over? I also think that that's now going to be a big fat no. And also another interesting part of it, in 2022, Indian nationals paying national insurance in the United Kingdom, the total was £500 million. That was how much they were bringing in. So if you're going to lose that, it coincidentally is the same amount that the farming tax is going to bring in. So I think that farmers are now paying for Indian workers.
Yeah, and again, I can understand if it was just temporary, but 3 years doesn't feel that temporary to me.
It's quite a long time.
That feels like quite a permanent job. That's not they're over here for a year, is it? And this is the thing, we've got at the same time, we've got these, I mean, it's like the 19th of May, there's this EU summit, and there's a lot of talk about moving towards having this sort of free movement effectively for young people for up to a year or whatever it is to travel, work freely in other EU countries and EU countries to come here. And again, with all these, is it just going to be a year? Is there going to be a cap on numbers? And how these things have a habit of just getting bigger and bigger. Do you think this was just Keir Starmer? They just wanted to get this trade deal over the line, particularly with the pressure of what's going on in terms of the trade war, the tariff war being fought by America. That this is, America's the biggest market for us as a single market, the EU as the biggest bloc. But in terms of growing markets, Southeast Asia is where it is at, India in particular. It's a good idea for us to have a good trade relationship with them. Service is going to be very important as well. It's a big part of our service industry. But I think the main thing is, and from the couple of calls we've already taken on this, and we'd love to get more on, if you give us a call, 0344 499 1000, your thoughts on this. No one trusts whatever the government says about this. The Tories can't be trusted, the Labour can't be trusted when they say, oh, we're going to put a cap, or when they say we're not going to do this and it won't be a load of people. They've lied about everything from opening up to Eastern Europe onwards. Every single thing that every government has said about what they're going to do and what the risks are and the benefits are from immigration has been a lie. I mean, every single thing, it's been untrue.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's so elastic, it's ridiculous, but it's loose elastic. It never goes back the other way.
No.
So you stretch it out and you stretch it out, you accrue more people into it. And I don't think that you can blame anybody for saying no one's going to do this. The one thing I do have to give the Conservatives credit for is the trade deal was pretty much ready to go.
Yeah.
It was only that we didn't want the visa conditions we weren't going to accept, and the national insurance cutouts we weren't going to accept either. So it was already there. So I do think that Kemi Badenoch needs a little bit of credit for that.
And Liz
now
Truss is the one as International Trade Secretary under Boris Johnson. She got the ball rolling on an awful lot of these deals. Bear in mind, you couldn't do these deals if we were still in the EU.
Precisely.
You're welcome.
We know that.
You're welcome. But again, I never understood this holiday. We're going to take back control. We're going to limit people being able to come from cheap labour from Eastern Europe, which is basically... We don't have an issue with, highly skilled bankers coming here and spending a load of money here from France and Germany. Great. Come on in, the water's lovely. It was people coming over and living 10 in a house from Romania and Poland was the issue. Now, many people have settled here, made lives here, and actually, completely and utterly, assimilated and key parts of many of our communities completely. But no one thought when we closed down that route from you, I know what a good idea is. Let's import a load of people from the Indian subcontinent, which is what we actually did to replace those people. Because cheap labour is what business wants, and business are the people who give the money to political parties. That's what happens.
Exactly, and you can see that is going to encourage a government to look at what is your bottom line, how are you going to increase the productivity of this country? Oh, well, let's just import it because we can do that really quickly.
That's what they do, and of course we're all supposed to benefit. Of course we don't. GDP per capita doesn't might appear sometimes to go up, but actually it's just being shared out. It's and again, a few people at the very very rich people completely distort those numbers. Let's talk about something completely different. We're going to be talking a bit later about Madeleine McCann and the evidence. There's 8 pieces of disturbing evidence against Christian B. But let's talk about criminals here. A new law basically being introduced, basically providing for something that Rishi Sunak said he would do, among the many things he didn't get round to before his snap election that he didn't need to call. But Labour are going ahead with it. They'll get Tory support for this. But more jail time for criminals who refuse to attend their sentencing hearings. Found guilty. You're going to be sentenced. You're already a guilty man or woman. You're going to basically face up to 2 years more behind bars, or losing, because if you're on a long sentence, you're not going to be deterred by that because you're serving 40 years. What's 42 years? And anyway, you only serve half it. Who are we kidding? You're going to basically lose a load of privileges behind bars. We were saying earlier, I don't think that's enough. If you refuse to attend your sentencing hearing, I don't think you get an option. You don't get an option about whether you go into your cell or not. So, or whether you get searched when you go into prison. You don't get a choice. You're a guilty man at this point. You will go to court. You will hear the sentencing remarks by the judge. You will hear the victim impact statements. You will have to face people. I don't care if we have to drag you kicking and screaming, if we have to put a gag on you and we have to tie you up and have 10 officers holding you down. You are going to be in court when you are sentenced. End of.
Since when did we give people the right to say, actually, I'm not going to go up and listen to it? You are convicted. Your liberty is being taken away from you. But don't worry.
Do as you're bloody well told.
Exactly. We don't want to hurt your feelings. You don't have to go in. Tough luck. I would also do the same. I'd have it soundproofed, piped in so they can hear every single word.
We'll just have a special court that's got that. We'll just ship you to that court.
Exactly.
You can scream as much as you want. In the court, no one can hear you scream. I don't care.
There you go. Why do we give these
You could just stand there and scream the whole way through the court thing. Even if I was, it was a member of my family who'd been murdered by you, I'd just stand there and watch you. Fine.
Exactly, but I think that people need to see justice being done.
Absolutely.
And if you're allowed to hide in the cells, no, it's not on.
Well, again, there was a case of the crossbow murderer, and he'd killed 3 women, mother and 2 daughters. His daughter being one of his ex-girlfriend. He then used the crossbow on himself and had basically become paralysed. He was in a wheelchair, and the judge said, look, he didn't want to drag him, a man, unedifying to have a man in a wheelchair being taken to court. I don't care. Self-inflicted wound. I don't care. I'd have dragged him out of the chair myself. I don't know why people... let's face it, what's the term? Pussyfoot around this stuff. We have got to get to grips. I think it tells you everything that's wrong with our justice system and the political system. They just don't get this stuff. You're in court, nothing to discuss, end of. Let me also just talk about things you can refuse to do, though, and that's to take training on net zero policies and on diversity, equity and inclusion. Newly elected reform councillors, 677 of them around the country, have been obviously told, you have to do your training on how to be green and also how not to be a racist and to be inclusive of trans people. I think they do actually all speak like that, those people. And there's very large women with brooches and stuff. You know what they all look like. You know what they all look like. And we've got them all. We've all had them. We've all come across them. And basically, across the country, and Nigel Farage has said, no, we're not taking training. I'm all for this. The MPs, the from MPs who refuse to do that parliamentary training on how not to sexually harass your staff. I mean, how's that worked out so well for all the other MPs so far? Yeah. I'm always amazed at your students, male students turning up at, I think it was at Cambridge University, a lot of other universities as well, having to go to enforced, basically, don't rape women courses.
Yes.
As if men need to be told that. I mean, it's so outrageous and patronising, isn't it?
I was very disappointed that in all my years sitting on a council, I was never offered training in net zero. So
all the people who needed it as well.
I couldn't have refused it. You know, I wanted the option to be able to refuse it, and I couldn't. Look, if they don't want to go, they don't have to go. You've got to run a council. You need to understand what time you have to turn up for committee meetings, when full council is, how to get around the council chamber and where your seat is. Those are the important things. And then you look at the statutory duties
and your
of a council.
expenses forms.
I never had any. It was very dull.
That's what we like to hear.
Very, very dull. Yep. I didn't earn very much on it. But those kind of things I think are really important. I think this is all window dressing, and there's not many councils that enforce councillors to go on it.
Well, I just find it also, and again, in buildings, I just think if you have to tell people not to be racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic, maybe you shouldn't have had that person in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like people who've like, I'm going to have a nanny cam, I'm going to hire someone to look after my child in my home when I'm not there.
You don't trust them.
And I'm going to have a camera on them because I don't trust them. Don't have that person look after your child.
Exactly.
These things don't make sense.